Good business starts with planning. Now, this seems like an obvious thing to say, but it's amazing how many people we come into contact with in our business, people doing business online, seem to have no plan in place. Set clear business objectives. This overlaps the first point a little, but another area where a lot of people fall down, setting clear business objectives. Why business objectives and not design objectives? Well, it's highlighting the fact that you have to think about design in the context of your business objectives, not design terms. Let me repeat that. We're going to suggest to you in a moment that you should underpin your design with solid, well-researched, well-thought-through business objectives. The idea is that if your business objectives aren't being met by the design elements that you're thinking of featuring in your site, then there's really no point in having them at all. Think back to Apple and Microsoft. Their business objectives were to brand and communicate. That's what their designs achieve. Amazon and eBay, they want to help you find products and buy them. That's what their design achieves. Google doesn't want anything to detract from the speed of your searching. And that's what their design achieves. These are all examples, albeit simplistic, of clear business objectives driving the design. So it's the business objective of your whole website and the individual web pages that should drive your design. We'll talk more about this later in the course. So, design to meet your objectives. Your objective is not to design. Make this your mantra. Your priority is to have a successful business, right? Your priority is not to design for design's sake. Make sure that you get it the right way around. And it's easy to make the mistake of getting them the wrong way around. Research your market or your niche. A lot of people are so excited when they come to doing business online that they get carried away and they ignore the need for doing any kind of research. Of course, things like checking out the competition and asking their customers what they want. And of course, that's a mistake. To forget to do the research is a mistake. And the same principles are true of design. There's little point in charging out there and trying to reinvent the wheel and come up with an all-new design approach when there are so many well-established principles out there. Examples of great quality design in every niche, on and offline, that have been proven to work over decades. So unless you've got a particularly strong reason for doing so, it's a wasted effort starting over. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later in the course. Suffice to say for now that you really must take time to research your market, your niche, and make notes of how other successful websites in your space are approaching design. Just to give you an example of what we mean, and it's nothing complicated, nothing that you can't readily do, let me show you some tips. I'm just going to show you a very simple way of pulling up a list of competitor websites in your niche, in your market, that you might want to take a lead from. So what I'm going to do is perform a simple search of Google, first of all. So let's just pop in a search for, say, lawn care, if this was our niche, if this was the market that we're competing in. And at a very basic level, we could just open a couple of these websites up in a new tab, in new tabs, and take a look at them and just see if we can take a lead from their design, get any ideas as to what they're doing that might perhaps contribute to their success, maybe. So just as we were looking at the Amazon, eBay, Microsoft, Apple, and Google sites, we could do the same. For this site, we could look at how they're prioritizing navigation, where they're positioning their navigation, the sort of themes that they're using. Obviously, this being lawn care, you can see that there's no surprise they've gone for a green theme, both in terms of the background and the headings, section headings, the menu, the header graphic, and so on. And scrolling down, we can see how they've sectioned off the content. So we could spend a bit of time basically doing some homework on what it is they've included, the footer, all of these different design elements, how they've broken down their content and what it is they're offering. You can see they've positioned advertising over on the right-hand side here as well. I'm not going to spend long analysing these sites just now. We will be looking at more detail at a couple of sites to see how they've used design later on in the course. Here we have another good example of a site. They've again used sort of green in the logo, in the links, prominently in the main design here, the main graphic feature, and they've contrasted that with a sort of an amber, yellowy amber colour. So there we have that, and again, clearly delineated sections of content below that main graphic. They're also promoting a few key sort of intended actions here in this main graphic. You can see it sort of changing and asking you to find out more. You could, of course, spend a good deal more time actually, digging a bit deeper into who are the better performing amongst your competitors. But at the simplest level, it literally is as easy as that. Going out there, doing some simple searches, finding the sites that are being returned highest in the search results, and doing some homework. There are tools out there, for example, Market Samurai, SEO Quake, these sorts of tools that help you quickly identify which sites within a niche are the better performing ones on more measures than search engine position alone. So things like traffic rank, page rank, numbers of backlinks in, and things like that. But as a very quick ready reckoning, their positioning within the search engine results is probably quite a good starting point. And the sorts of things that you can be looking for, as we looked at quickly in those two examples of lawn care sites, things like the imagery they use, colors, layout, navigation, highlighting, fonts that they've used, emphasis, bold and underline and things like that. Their apparent objectives, what is it that they appear to be trying to do? Are they trying to sell? Are they trying to brand? Are they trying to communicate certain things, and so on? And just running very quickly through a few sites can help you get a much better idea of the direction that your top competitors are taking. And if you see similar design trends across multiple well-established and successful sites, then the chances are that those design trends work by definition. Next, we have KISS, Keep It Simple Stupid. You'll find sites where people have over-designed the sites. They've used flash elements, for example, a classic example. They look great the first time that you see them, but after a while, they can prove more of a hindrance than an asset. They distract the visitor, they make it harder to find what you're looking for, and so on. They can also slow page load times too, of course. They can be quite annoying. So really you need to keep it simple. Don't over-egg the pudding. This is a great quote from the creative director of Twitter called Doug Bowman. And the quote reads as follows: "While design must appeal to our sense of aesthetic, it must not stand in the way of delivery, cause complications, or introduce stumbling blocks. Rather, the presence of design should simplify and facilitate our everyday life, enable us to accomplish our tasks more effectively, and help us enjoy them along the way." And this is a really great quote for explaining what it is that design should do. It should help ease the delivery of our content. It shouldn't stand in the way or cause obstacles. So if you look at design and you think, is this actually enhancing my content, or is it building stumbling blocks into people consuming my content, finding my content, that's a great way of assessing whether your design is pushing in the right direction. And it's no surprise that when you look at modern contemporary sites, you're often seeing clean layouts, no clutter, easy to find and read content, plenty of white space. It's about making that user experience as positive as possible. Plan for the midterm. This is perhaps best explained by the fact that most sites that you look at today have evolved. You're not designing your final site right now, even if you think you are. You're simply designing version 1. And this ties into what we were saying earlier about getting the content right first and then refining the design over time. So think of the design as being a good foundation, but in no way the finished article. We'll be looking at a tool shortly that will demonstrate how some really big sites that we all know have evolved over time, just to get this point across. And you'll be surprised how badly designed some of these big sites were back in the early days, and to show you how massively also that they've changed and that they continue to change. Design is definitely more an ongoing process than a one-time task in this respect. So plan for the midterm when you're designing your site. Just to take a look at some examples right now, let's check out some sites that illustrate some of the points that we've been making here. Planning and objectives, keeping it simple, and accepting that our site will evolve over time. The first thing I'll show you are a couple of tools. When we talk about setting objectives and planning, I just want to break out for a second and share a couple of great tools that we regularly use to help get our ideas down. Now, I appreciate this isn't a design tool per se, but hopefully you'll appreciate that we're trying to help you plan and set objectives that will drive your design. So these sorts of tools are part of the overall process. And the first tool that you can see on the screen here is called MindMeister. Now, MindMeister is an online mind mapping application, and it allows you to quickly brainstorm out your objectives so that you have some kind of a point of reference when it comes to thinking about your design. Another great tool, if you'd rather use an offline downloadable tool, is Xmind. And you can download Xmind for free, the simple version. And again, it's a great mind mapping tool for getting down what it is that you feel are your business objectives, the objectives that you need your site to achieve, and so then in turn your design. And if you're not into mind mapping software, don't worry. You can always just use a trusty pencil and a sheet of paper, just as effective. Another great tool that I want to share with you, this time for checking out how sites have evolved over a period of time, is called Wayback Machine. And what it allows you to do is basically call up a detailed archive list of the different versions, the different iterations of any particular website. The best way to explain this is for me to show you. So all we need to do is to pop a URL into the search box here. So let's try searching for a big site like Microsoft.com. Oh, I need to spell it right. And then click Take Me Back. And what the system will do, the Wayback Machine, is it'll show you an archive list. This is a list of all the different copies of that website that have been taken and stored, archived over the years. You can see there are masses of copies of the Microsoft site there, stored for prosperity, and we can dig into each of those and take a look at how that site looked at the time. For example, if we went back to 1996 and picked a copy of the Microsoft site, we'll see as it loads. Here was how Microsoft.com looked. There are some missing images there, but you get the overall impression from the screen here. This is actually how the Microsoft website looked back in the day, back in 1996. And so you can see that it was incredibly basic looking. Well, this is nowhere near, of course, the stylish looking site that we looked at a little bit earlier in the course. A sort of a very well designed, laid out site. This Microsoft course of 1996 is all about basic text and basic hyperlinks. There's nothing really exciting. There's very little design going on at all. Very, very basic. And we can try other sites as well. Let's hop back to the start there, and this time let's try Best Buy. Let's see how Best Buy has evolved over the years. Let's take a look. Let's try November 2000, see what their site looked like then. Okay, very basic again, pretty standard stuff, text and links, obviously some product pack shots. And if we just call it Best Buy as it now looks today, we can see a very different style, a different design to the one of 2000. So in 11 years, it's gone from this page design or this site design through to what we know today. So this illustrates actually a really important point. It's a useful thing to note that when you're using the Wayback tool, you're seeing effectively design trends within a particular site over the years. So if we wanted to, we could open up several of the Best Buy websites over a period of, say, 5 or 6 years to date, up to now, and we could compare them to see what has happened, what the evolution is. And what that's going to show you, the things that have changed over time. It's great research. It shows you, for example, the design elements that work, so they've been kept, and the design elements that don't work, i.e. they've dropped that design element between iterations. It's an insight into that company, that website's testing, their experience using different design elements. So if we assume that we're looking at successful sites in our own niche, this tool can give you a glimpse at the design decisions they've made over time in order to achieve their success. So it's kind of like reverse engineering their site in a really smart way. And you never know, you might get some absolute gems here, all for just a few minutes of your time. So what I'm going to do, just to illustrate this point right now, is do just that. I'm going to find a site within a particular niche, and I'm going to do a little bit of reverse engineering just to show you how you can use this simple tool to analyze your competition, okay? So let's just put a search into to Google here for, let's say, aquariums. Let's say our niche was aquariums. Okay, so I'm doing a simple search for, spelt wrong, the term aquariums. And we can see the site that's returned at the top of the list is Aquariums Direct. Okay, so let's just open that site up and take a look at it. Okay, so here's that site now. Now all I'm going to do is drop to the Wayback Machine and pop in Aquariums Direct. And let's see if we can glean anything useful. Let's just go back to, say, I don't know, 2006, December 2006, and see what we have and see if we can get some kind of a before and after. Well, straight away something jumped out at me here. First of all, we can see that the tabs along the top there are pretty much the same. As in, sorry, positioning wise, they're the same. They've gone for a tab navigation along the top, which seems to be working because 5 years on, they're still using this tab navigation at the top. Secondly, however, they've also got a category listing now along the left-hand side, whereas they didn't before. So there's some information there that we might take away. Maybe they've established through testing and experience that there is a need for some kind of left-hand navigation, or they've leveraged people's expectations of navigation over there on the left-hand side effectively. What else can we see? Colour schemes, we've got a blue colour scheme there, another blue here, but a sort of a more subtle, less obvious aquarium kind of colour scheme used for their design here. You can see that they've used white space very effectively here. It's nice and clean and professional looking, the site here, and the section dividers tying in with the colour scheme, that sort of navy blue. It's a nice, well thought through design here. Things are laid out nice and neatly. They're aligned. You can see that you've got sort of columns here on the right-hand side. You've got rows of featured elements here. We've got coupons here, saving 50% off. Things like that are worth noting as well. When you drop back to the previous one, you can see, okay, again, they've got sort of content lined up nicely. It's certainly not as clear or clean. And there is some navigation on the left-hand side. Perhaps that's a layout issue with the Wayback Machine there, so it might have actually appeared there on the left-hand side. And what else have they got? Interesting to note here, we've got buy fast, feel secure, enjoy no payments for 90 days for purchases over $100. We could even look at that as a design element and see if that's featured here at all. Can we see anything that resembles that? Can we see something about no payments for 90 days? I can't see anything at all, in fact. So there's something interesting for you, because the supposition there might be that they tried that, but you know what? They found it didn't make a positive impact on sales. If it had, it would still be there, right? So you can see just by doing some simple before and after comparisons that you can learn a great deal about a particular design. Let's just drop back to our search results for the term aquarium. What else have we got? Anything else that we can look at? Let's try fish.com. You'd think fish.com would be a pretty big one. I'm going to go ahead and do a search for fish.com. See if we can do some before and after comparisons for this one as well. Right, let's try something way back. Let's go for 1999. So a long time ago. Okay, nothing really to look at there, it appears. Let's see, let's try something a bit further forward. How about 2000? No. How about going forward to not too long ago, just 7 years or so ago? Still not getting a great deal from the Wayback Machine for then, so just going to keep winding forwards until we find something that we can do a decent, meaningful comparison with. Okay, so we're getting something better this time. Now, straight away, let's look at the design and the layout and the graphics and things, the color schemes, things that have been used. And we can see navigation on the left-hand side, for example. We can also see tab navigation along the top. Don't worry, by the way, sometimes the images don't all come through from the Wayback Machine, so don't panic if you do see some missing images. Interestingly, we can see some sort of security stuff here that's designed to reassure a shopper. We can see some special offers, potential section dividers, at least category call-outs, category graphics. We've got, interestingly, a $49 free shipping offer here and 150% price protection promotion here. Search is featured prominently at the top of the page here. What else have we got that we could note? 99.8 in stock today. Okay, so there's a quick snapshot. We've looked at this. Let's flip over to the new version of the site. And once again, we've still got navigation at the top, still got these sort of icons here that they've been using. They're still using these sort of promotions. This time it's dropped to 120% price guarantee rather than 150%. Again, there's some market intelligence there for. or competitor intelligence, everyday low shipping. They've still got the search front and center at the top there. They've still got left-hand navigation. They've still got sort of sections of content here. So there's a lot that's remained fairly static in terms of the design here. They've still got the security thing to give confidence. They've now got an email sign-up here, which is interesting. That's something new that's been introduced on the site. Clearly, they're approaching their email marketing more seriously for featuring it in a prominent position above the fold there. So yeah, interesting. And rather than having, let's see, on the old one we had a splash about live fish delivered to your doorstep. Now they've replaced that with a call for feedback. So you can see and learn a great deal by doing these sorts of before and after comparisons. I know, for having looked at this site maybe a year or so ago, they also used to feature fairly recently a large flash animation, which I'm pleased to see is gone because it's not a very effective use of real estate, and in fact can detract from your core message. So that's another change that's been and gone, and you can learn something from that. So looking at these sites over a period of time, reverse engineering them, and in just a few minutes, we can get some invaluable information about the design elements that work from our competitors. Were we in the aquariums business, you can see by analyzing a range, a cross-section of our competitors, the better sites, the bigger, better performing sites, we can start to pick up some interesting trends. What are the offers that they've still got now that they were offering 5 years ago? Because those are the offers that were working. What is the navigation? How are they using navigation? What are the design theme changes that we can see? So just to recap the slide we were on a second ago, on objectives and planning, we said good business starts with planning. You have to set clear business objectives. You should design to meet your objectives. Your objective is not to design for design's sake. You need to do research. You need to look at your market, the niche, your competitors. You need to keep things simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Keep it nice and simple. You need to plan for the midterm. Remember, you're not going to actually be designing your finished site. Your site is going to evolve over time. And we've seen by the examples in Wayback Machine that even the biggest brands out there have had their site evolve significantly over the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. And finally, we just did a bit of an experiment looking at a few different sites and establishing how we can pick up certain design theme changes over time by using that Wayback Machine tool to sort of plot the changes from one iteration to another. Okay, so let's move on now.